I both think that he's very, very good and is going to be an NFL player.
Yeah, you're going to see plenty of Derek King when we go to the film side, but the numbers side, you can kind of see possibly why Virginia Tech might be a favorite. And these are yards per play before not including garbage time. So they're 14th in the country in yards per play on offense. They have been really good, especially at running the ball. I think their lowest totals this year running the ball are like still over 200 yards. And coincidentally, their two losses are their two lowest rushing totals. So that's something to look for. Miami hasn't been great against the run. You see their numbers here. Not what you'd expect from the Miami defense of the last few years. They're almost quite getting that Florida thing where they have a good offense finally and their defense isn't quite up to snuff. But they're still, both teams, explosive on offense. They do it in a little bit different ways, but there are some similarities. So we'll start with the Virginia Tech offense and the Miami defense. Virginia Tech likes to do run pass option stuff. So here you got the stretch play. Linebackers come up, throw it down the field. Hendon Hooker is the quarterback. They like to use him a lot in the run game. They're all everything back. Khalil Herbert got hurt on the first play of the game against Liberty. He was averaging 8 yards a carry this season and having a really good year. Shockingly, a transfer from Kansas, but he was having an unbelievable season. He hurt his hamstring. They're not sure if he's back for this game. If he's not, I think that is something that heavily goes, obviously, in the Hurricanes' favor. Virginia Tech leaned on Hooker's run game a lot against Liberty. The Miami defense, they can get after the passer. When they have their first unit in with Silvera in there, they can stop the run a little bit, but they like to rotate a lot. And they were missing a lot of guys off defense last week. I don't know if they'll have him this week yet or not. Hooker can fit the ball in some tight spaces. And Miami was susceptible to the pass against North Carolina State. They're not the same they've been in the back end. They're just not quite as good. Right here, no reroute, nothing on this receiver. Just gets an easy pass to the back of the end zone. But the Miami offense is very good, and Derek King is very good. He can run, as you see here. I think he ran for like 130 last week and threw for 400 or something like that. They use them with play action. This is kind of like a triple option look. He can just drop it in the bucket. They're having some receivers step up. Again, he can complete passes downfield. Great catch, great ball. And if you need a big play, he can make that too with his feet. Virginia Tech had trouble against Liberty stopping the run, which I think Miami really wants to be a run team. Rhett Lashlee loves to use the run to set up the pass. Liberty ran for over 200 yards on Virginia Tech last week. They also hit him with a couple double moves. They can get the passer occasionally, but they're not great up front. And they had some trouble against quarterback run. And unfortunately, they're playing a quarterback that can run quite well. And here's something with the tempo. You might see Miami spring a couple of runs like this where you just get over pursuit and there's nobody there. It's a little too easy. And Miami was able to survive against this. I mean, when you can survive against a kicker doing that to you, maybe it's your year. I don't know.
That kicker is going to be running in practice until the next game. That is completely unacceptable at all levels. You're a kicker. Knock it off. Who you like here? And Brevin Jordan. Do we have a status on Brevin Jordan for this weekend?
No, I haven't seen anything. And there's him, and I think there were 11 players missing last week when they played North Carolina State for one reason or another. So I'm not sure if they get those guys back. I don't know. I may sound like a square, but I find it tough to bet against Derek King when I'm getting points with him too. It reminds me a little bit of the Louisville game where they were going in, they were getting 2 points, and you're like, this is the better quarterback, especially if Khalil Herbert doesn't play. I think it would be interesting to go back and look this year. How many times has the team with the better quarterback won? I'd say the vast majority of the time this season. So when in doubt, I'm taking the team with a better quarterback and I'm getting points. I'll take Miami.
Yeah, I agree with you. Another thing to keep an eye on, and maybe this is one where you're checking the injury report Saturday morning before you get your action down, and that is because I believe 3 of the first 6 defensive linemen for Miami were out last weekend as well. So something to keep an eye on, especially, for a team that does need to get after the passer, because as we said, they might not cover as well as some others. Yeah. We move on. 9 Indiana is ranked number 10. I don't think it's 9 wins in a shortened season, but I think they might have if we're playing a full schedule this year. They are fun. They are led by Tampa's own Michael Penix, excuse me. I'm still going to call him the name wrong, even though he lives there, from Tampa Bay Tech here down here. They are undefeated, ranked number 10, and they are giving 7 on the road at a Michigan State team that has already upset Michigan this season. Right now, Michigan State is getting 69% of the cash and 59% of the bets. The total is at 51.5, and that is getting 78% of the cash and 91% of the bets. So maybe not the sharpest side, but also getting a definite preponderance of the money. Something to keep in mind with the Hoosiers, they are 4-1 against the spread in their last 5. The total has gone over in 4 of their last 5. And it does seem like they're a team that has just continued to surpass expectations week after week after week. However, Michigan State has been on the other side of that. Michigan State is only 5-15 against the spread in their last 20, but that was also factoring in a ton of Mark D'Antonio. I don't know if you can really necessarily carry that over. Michigan State is 0-5 in their last 5 at home, which that's not great. Mel Tucker bringing a totally different culture after he sold out Colorado. Did I say that out loud? Yes, he sold out Colorado. What do you think, Seth, about these two teams? 7, you see all the hype around Indiana, and 7, that sounds pretty good, but is this team for real?
Yeah, I don't know. The numbers would say that they're probably not for real. You look here, offensively, you think they'd be a lot better. They are 89th in yards per play, taking out garbage time. They only picked up 94%, or they're 94th in the country in available yards picked up on offense. But their defense is pretty good. In that same metric, they're 19th in the country. Michigan State's defense is not bad either. I think the big difference here you can see is that turnover margin. Michigan State is -7 on the season, which is really bad and seems unsustainable. But when you watch them, you can kind of see why. So we'll start with the Indiana offense. I think that's probably, in most people's minds, the standout unit, right? But the numbers don't really show it. What they can do, though, is they have some pretty good skill players, and the quarterback does a good job of getting the ball out of his hands quick. When he does that, when he gets the ball out on time and quickly, he's pretty accurate, and they do a good job getting guys open. He's had the only trouble he's had when he's had to kind of sit back there for longer, but he makes quick decisions. His guys make plays down the field for him. You see here against Michigan, making plays on the field. Another one for a touchdown. So these aren't there's times when these guys aren't wide open, but they're going up and making plays. Here, a nice scheme to get a guy open on it looked like possibly like a scissors concept on the backside there, and they do some funky stuff with the releases and the split to kind of make it easier on the quarterback. Here, this is where you could get in trouble. You get a little bit of rush, you get flustered, you kind of try to make a play, and now you put it in danger. So that's what, if they get pressure on him, but that's kind of anybody. But here's a great little concept, really well designed, where they bring an H-back. They just kind of switch up the releases. He's kind of an H-back. He's going here. He's going to come underneath, get him to jump up here, and then he's going to break in the void behind him. This is on a 1st and 20, and they pick it up easily.
That's really nice.
Yeah. Now, so they do some interesting stuff on offense. And
one thing to point out, though, we just showed a lot of film of them beating up a Michigan team with a secondary that might be pure trash. So let's just keep that in mind.
Well, and it's hard to tell kind of exactly what Michigan State is. You see here, contested catch for Iowa. That Iowa game was just a nightmare for them. But they did, they were able to get a little pressure there. but that's not a quick twitch guy coming around the corner like Penn State had when Indiana had trouble with them. And now we'll kind of get to the Indiana defense. They're tough. You saw the numbers. They're a pretty tough unit here. They can get pressure with three. I think the head coach is well respected, but they can get beat over the top. Here's Michigan hitting a bomb over the top. Here you bring pressure. When you bring pressure, you got to win the one-on-one. Michigan won it there. But here, bring three again, you get pressure. That guy looks a little bit more athletic than the Michigan State guy we just saw, which is, I think, when you're watching these two teams play, what I keep thinking is Indiana's a lot more athletic than Michigan State. But Michigan State, they like to throw the ball down the field. I don't know if they like to. They like to run the ball a ton, but they're not very good at it. But their most success has been throwing the ball down the field. This is a pretty good throw. Again, you'll see another shot down the field. So and this is kind of how they move the ball in Michigan. Explosive plays in the passing game. It wasn't like sustained excellence on offense that got them all those yards. A lot of explosive passing plays. If Indiana can limit those, the Michigan State's going to have a hard time scoring, I think. And, I wanted to bet Michigan State, and then I saw some plays like this, and it just really took the verve out for me. And if you wonder why if you wonder why you're -7 in the turnover margin, it's plays like that. And this one might be even worse. It's just like, and then he's got another one later. It's, to me, when I first saw the line, I'm like, okay, Indiana, that sounds, they've been playing really well. And then I went and looked at the numbers. I'm like, oh, Michigan State, this is, they're getting 7 points at home. Look at these numbers, aren't too dissimilar. But then you throw it on, and I'm like, they look slow. And their quarterback looks like he'll give you a couple. When the game they won, they didn't turn the ball over. I don't know if I can trust that quarterback not to turn it over. So I would lean Indiana probably here.
Yeah, I'm going to hope that Indiana gets down to 6.5 here, and I'm just going to bomb it. So the thing about Indiana, and you talked about their head coach, Tom Allen, who is beyond well-respected. He did 1 year with the team that I covered at South Florida. What that guy gets his teams to do to overachieve, that is one of the best coaches in college football. So I'm a big believer in what they do. I don't know if they have the talent necessarily that some other programs have, and that'll probably limit how far they can go this year. I don't think they can possibly, I don't know if they can find a way into a New Year's Eve Six Bowl. I hope they can. That would be great. It'd be a tremendous story, but I just don't think they have the horses.
Yeah.
They're going to struggle with some of the bigger teams in that division, especially. But I think they can get this one. So if it gets down to 6.5, I'm going to go bombs away here. But I don't want to lay 7 if I can.
Under could also be an interesting, even though they've gone over, I think Michigan State's so bad on offense and they have a little bit on defense, that under could be an interesting play here too, possibly.
A Tom Allen defense against a kid that likes to turn the ball over just seems like a recipe for you're going to get at least one free score.
Yeah.
So and if you break even the rest of the way, you're going to be good. We move along. Oregon -10, Washington State +10. One team is good, one team probably is not. Oregon is getting so much love from the betting markets. It's kind of preposterous, but there's an even more mysterious split. So far, Oregon at -10 is getting 89% of the bets and 94% of the cash. Now, here's where it gets interesting. The over is 58. 10% of the cash and 84% of the bets are on the over. 90% of the cash and 16% of the bets are on the under. That means the under appears to be the extremely razor sharp side so far in early totals. I did not see either one of these two teams play. I am very familiar with Nick Nerolovich from his time at my second favorite team in the world, Hawaii. They're putting the run and shoot in. That's going to take time. It's a completely different offense than anything that these kids are going to see before, because you're looking, basically you need the quarterback and the wide receiver to be on the same page. And if they're not, it gets ugly very, very fast. So it's going to take a while for him to build what he wants to build at Washington State. But what have you seen from them through 60 minutes of football?
Well, I mean, what we saw is that they can play some offense, right? Through one game, both these teams, and you can see by the numbers, both these teams had unbelievable offensive output. While it's a very small sample size, you see that Oregon was fourth in yards per play in the country. Washington State's 12th after one game. And then available yards, Oregon picked up 77.5% of available yards to them in that first game against Stanford. Washington State picked up over 60%. So that's why I think people are thinking over. Just the numbers say, over. Oregon was 81% on third down, and then only gave up 30%, which is 11th in the country. Washington State not as good on third down. I think when you look at the numbers and you think Pac-12, you're thinking, okay, this is an over. 58, that's not very much. But, it's hard to say because it's a very small sample size. You would have thought that Michigan and Minnesota, you thought Michigan was going to be an over team the whole year after the Minnesota game. And they have not been very good since. So, small sample size. So, what does Washington State have? They have a freshman quarterback, I believe. It's a pretty good athlete. He can get out and escape. They'll use him in the run game a little bit too. They're going to take some shots down the field. Slot fade here. Slot fade again here. They're going to have some decent receivers left over from the last staff, I would imagine. Quarterback stuff, I don't know. He's a young guy. They got a guy here that runs pretty hard. But again, it's Oregon State. And now the Oregon defense had some trouble with Stanford. They didn't give up a lot of points, and they got off the field on third down, but they gave up some runs. They gave up some shots down the field. So you're thinking, okay, Oregon gave up a bunch of shots down the field. Washington State's going to want to throw the ball. That, there's points there. And the Oregon offense was so impressive. I think that's when people start thinking over. But some of these throws are really good throws, not like exactly terrible coverage. Here, this is a throw into really tight coverage. Just a good throw and a good catch. The Oregon offense looked pretty good with a new quarterback, new coordinator. They got Joe Moorhead, who was at Mississippi State last year and also coordinated those really good Penn State offenses a few years back. There's a lot of excitement about him. They got a quarterback and some receivers can make plays down the field. You can see here the quarterback's not, bummed. He's a pretty athletic guy. He can make some plays with his feet. They'll use him in the run game. With Mario Cristobal as the head coach, they're going to want to run the ball. Here's kind of a new age triple option there. And then Washington State against Oregon State. I thought that Oregon State was able to run the ball on them pretty effectively. This is not, I don't think, a great tackling Washington State team. And I think the final score doesn't really indicate how close that game was last week. So when I'm looking at it, I think that Washington State, I think they'll score some points, but I think the Oregon defense will probably make a leap from last week to this week. They were expected to have a really good defense this year. I don't think they showed as well as they'd like to in that first game. They've got a lot of talent on that side of the ball. They lost a couple of guys to opt out, but they still have a pretty talented group. So I'd expect them to rebound. I don't think Washington State's going to be able to stop Oregon on offense. So I like Oregon in this game. 10 is a lot, but I think they'll cover. And, I think the over seems like the right play with the numbers, but I think you're going to see some regression from Washington State on offense. So that could keep it under.
Yeah, that total was open 60.5, and it's actually been bet down to 58. So it seems like all the sharp money is just coming in on piles and gobs on the under. So I can see like an argument here. And the thing is that you really didn't see this last week with Wazoo, but like this system takes time. This is not going to be something where you're going to be able to get everybody on the same page right away. It's complicated. It's tough. It's just different than anything a wide receiver's done before in football. Generally, like you run a route, and if it's the biggest read you'll have to make is if it's man, go here, and if it's zone, go here.
Yeah.
It's a little bit different in the shoot, just because you also have to be aware of where the other receivers are in the field. The other thing, like you see the running back at Washington State. In Hawaii, every running back that they had was just just a wall of humanity. I don't think any of them ran under 240, 250. And so if you've got a small and shifty guy, that's great. But they're really looking more for a blitz pickup guy that almost acts as like a fullback as the single setback. So it's like little things like that. And I just think they're probably gonna be a little bit away. And Oregon, the numbers, they look pretty good.
And there's the big, I think, when you look, the Oregon has started to recruit really well the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And I think they're top 15 team, maybe top 12, catching up to USC for top in the conference. And Washington State's always kind of lagged behind, even when they had success with Leach. He's not an unbelievable recruiter. So there's a big talent gap on paper there too. So that's why I kind of lean towards Oregon to figure some things out from week one and show up on defense a little better.
There are a lot of things you can say about Mario Cristobal, and people at FIU certainly said them. He was not always the most popular guy in the building, and maybe at a couple other stops too. But the man can recruit. I don't think that's any question. And his kids do play hard. For the most part, you will see any team that he's coached, they come out and they give effort. So, let's. I say quack this week. I like quack more at 9.5 than I do at 10, of course. All right, that will do it. Anything else jump out at you this week, Seth? We have 11 canceled games so far, which is just like insanity. 5 of the top 25 aren't playing. I have no idea. You put bets down and then they get taken away 20 minutes later because the game is going to happen.
I think these three were like the only ones that jumped out at me as interesting that are still being played. I think an interesting game is Penn State, Nebraska, but I had no clue. I wouldn't put anything on that, but I think that would be an interesting game.
All I know is after that game, one fan base is going to be really angry at their head coach.
Yeah.
That I can promise you.
Yes, if you get action on that, take it.
And I think if that is Nebraska, I can't believe this because I thought Scott Frost did one of the best coaching jobs I've ever seen when he was at UCF. I think it was unbelievable the way he got that program turned around and got those kids bought in, recruited well, did everything he could. And then he goes back to his alma mater and just can't do. He can't. I mean, if he turns right on the highway, where he's going is left. Like, he can't do anything right. And it's just crazy to say.
It's a good thing he turned down Joe Burrow when he wanted to come. That was a good call.
Like, we should keep like a list of like the worst quarterback misses. It's Justin Fields probably wins the Heisman this year. And while Georgia can't even make the championship game in the SEC. So, all right, for Seth Varnadore, I'm Collin Sherwin. Hope y'all enjoyed this. Go make some money this weekend. Enjoy the football. What's left of it.